What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 peak week mistakes. The biggest mistake that really affects you the most is if you're going to be cutting water and cutting sodium. So I see far too many competitors trying this their first time out. Now, sometimes it is appropriate to manipulate water and sodium, but for the majority of people, we want to keep both of those in and both of those high all week. If you're looking to cut one or the other or even both, you're looking to manipulate a lot of things that could probably lead you to have a physique that you're not as proud of. Next, I see a lot of people trying to lose too much weight during the last week of their prep. So they try to lose those last, let's say 3 or 4 pounds all in the course of 1 week. In reality, I really don't try to have my clients losing really any weight, any fat during that last week at all. The last week is really meant to polish off your physique, so maybe losing a pound, but in reality, you probably should just focus on, carbing up if you are lean enough. Speaking of peaks, the third mistake that I see of is just people not practicing their peak. They go into peak week, they might have a plan, but they just don't practice it before, so they kind of guess how many carbs how many carbs am I going to fill up on? They just throw a number out there with really no rhyme or reason. So ideally, you want to be practicing your peak, 3-4 weeks out, and that way you could really fine tune it in the final week, and that way you're not playing a guessing game. Another mistake that I see would be number 4, would be people eating new foods during their peak week. Usually you want to try to eat, if you know what foods you're going to be eating, if you are eating specific foods, you're going to want to try to eat those once again 3 or 4 weeks out during your practice peaks. That way you get used to digesting the foods, and then God forbid, if you happen to be allergic to any of these new foods, you don't want to be having an allergic reaction the last week. Along the same lines, number 5 would be using different supplements during the final week as well. So if you start incorporating different supplements in that last week that you haven't taken before, they might affect you in ways that you might not know. So let's try to keep those supplements the same in that final week. Number 6 would be just not having a plan. So I've asked some competitors, at shows, what did you do this week? How did you lay it out? And they said, I just kind of ate. I ate all week and I did my training this way. I kind of went by feel, and not having a plan is probably the worst thing that you can do. I mean, you would rather have a crappy plan than no plan at all, because that way you could go back and look what you did and then make changes off of it. Tip number 7 that I see a lot of people make mistakes on is just choosing the wrong peaking method. So you have to ask yourself, how does my body respond to carbs, and then what class am I in? So those 2 things are going to help you make the decision on how to carb yourself up. So, if you're a bodybuilder, you're probably not going to be carbing up the same way as a bikini competitor. Sure, the goal is to carb up, but the amounts are going to be very different, hopefully at least, and then the method that you choose is going to be a lot different. Mistake number 8 would be trying to carb up fat. Now, you have to be to a certain level of leanness in order to actually successfully carb up. If you're 10 pounds over stage weight, you're not going to be able to carb up fat. Unfortunately, you're really not going to be able to do too much in that final week if you have too high of a body fat percentage. And you see a lot of people trying to pull off a miracle in that last week, manipulating, all of the above that we mentioned before. But at the end of the day, they're just too fat, so they're not going to see any changes. And most likely, they're going to make themselves look even worse. Mistake number 9 that I see is training too hard leading right up to the show day. Now, during that last week, we really should be backing off the gas. And we still should be training, but definitely not as hard. And then I actually cut off training, at least hard training, really on Wednesday or Thursday, and that way we could let our body heal, because it really takes up to anywhere from 48 to 72 hours for our body, for our muscles to heal up. And I wouldn't want my clients or myself to be sore on stage when they're trying to hold their poses for an extended period of time, right? You want to be fresh, you want to be healed up, you want to be ready to go and perform on stage. The last mistake that I see people make is just not taking enough pictures during peak week. Now, we talked about all the things that we could potentially manipulate during peak week, and if you don't have a clear record of it, then you don't have anything to base your results on. If you take pictures every single day and you write down, what foods you ate, how much water you took, how much sodium intake, you could look back and make changes on that. You could look at from Tuesday to Wednesday, maybe you look better there as opposed to Friday and Saturday. So then you could make changes for your next show. If you're not taking pictures and you just wait until show day to see how you looked on stage, that's only a small percentage of what you did over the course of that week. You really need to get the big picture in order to get an understanding of what you need to do next time, or even what you did right. Maybe the first or second time competing you nail your peak and you're like, all right, well, I want to do this again. If you don't take pictures and if you don't keep a log of what you did, then you're just kind of going back to the drawing board every single time and don't have a clear and set plan. So those are the top 10 mistakes that I see during peak week. Avoid these for your next show and hopefully you come out on top. Until next time, keep crushing it, guys.